All right, so up next, let's talk about Lord of the Rings, man. The Rings of Power.
Them rangs.
Them rings, right? So yeah, Ricardo, you didn't get around to watching the last two episodes.
Right.
We
'Cause
talked
I
about the
know, I
first
know
episode.
the big. Because the only thing I care about is the big mystery of who's this guy now. Like it had to be either Gandalf or Sauron. I'm not sure. Well,
All right. Well, I will try not to spoil that, right?
all right, no
Well,
problem.
as you brought up that, I'll make a conscious effort not to spoil that, right? But it does make for a great reveal, I must
Right.
say, right? We covered the first two episodes of this, right? Because they were
Sure.
dropped on the same day, right? And looking at it now, you know what I mean? Looking at them now, sorry. And because I just did like this, I just kind of binged through the first season. Yesterday, the time of us recording here, right? Pacing for those two episodes, especially that first episode, yes, is an issue, right? And I would say if there is one drawback to the show here, it is pacing, right? But I'll
Right.
but I'll tell you where in particular where I felt that they could have fixed it, right? So what this show here is in a nutshell, right? It's a prequel to the I would say the Hobbit trilogy, but I was more leaning towards the original trilogy. That's Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, right?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, this show does have some callbacks actually to I would say to Fellowship of the Ring, right? Especially the
Right.
last few
Right.
episodes. You see some really great callbacks to that, right? Some really subtle callbacks, but how they make it work totally work, right? So instead of like just following like a select group or fellowship, if you will, it centers on a few select characters, and we just kind of seeing how their adventures more or less tie with the present, or I should say, coming of the evil one himself, Sauron, right?
Right.
So we start off with Galadriel. We know a young in quotes Galadriel who starts off as this warrior. She's hell bent
Yeah.
on stopping
Galadriel warrior princess here.
as people was called her, right? Yeah, she's hell bent on stopping, the evil Morgoth, who
Yeah.
pretty much killed her brother Finrod, right? Way back when. And it's even to the point that she just kind of sacrifice, not sacrifice so much, but just kind of gave up the opportunity to more or less rest in peace. While she's on this trip through the sundering seas. You know what I mean? So it's not death per se, but it's more like, all right, this is the reward for years of hard battle. But she's like, no, you know what I mean? I know something bad's gonna happen, so I literally jump ship and return, right? In the process, she runs into, or I should say, stumbles onto Halbrand, right? He is one of a group of stowaways, right? Or castaways, if you will, sorry, right?
Yeah.
From this ship that was attacked by this sea creature, right? And in the process now, Halbrand, and Galadriel are saved by this sailor by the name of Elendil, right? He is, and we learn later on that he actually is the father of Isildur,
Right. Right.
as in the guy from the first movie who fought Sauron in the first place, had the opportunity to destroy the One Ring but didn't, and
Yeah.
then he ended up getting
Did.
he ended up getting killed. Mean 3 hours in the back. You know the story, right? Yeah, yeah. So and they set up this pretty interesting
Yeah.
subplot involving Isildur wanting to join, well, what is essentially the navy of this particular island, where this island kingdom where Galadriel ends up going to, right? Well, end up being brought to, I should say, right? I will learn right there that there has been this uneasy, tension going on between elves and humans, right? So yeah, any elf that's there, they're pretty much looked down upon, right? But she kind of tells them, about the threat and whatnot. So they just kind of, well, her and the queen pretty much have to form this alliance, and they will go up against the foe itself, right? And speaking of foe now, let's go back to Halbrand himself. He is from the Southlands, right? And what we learn through the introduction of this character called Bronwyn, right? Bronwyn, right? She finds out that some of the animals there, are sick, like really badly sick, right? And it's fear that there's
Yeah.
something weird, something like really poisonous and dark that's going on in the soil there in that area, right? So she
Yeah.
goes to investigate. And then, well, alongside this elf by the name of Arondir, he is one of the black elves that social media was going nuts, like, oh my god, black elves, right?
Right.
Yeah, so it short they find out that there's something really dark and twisted going on there. They investigate and they learn, well, yeah, orcs are afoot, and they have some they up to no good basically. That's what's going on, right? And also we are introduced to, well, a group of hobbits called the Harfoots. One of
Right.
them by the name of Nori, right? Nori Brandyfoot. So she's the lead character in that section that we follow, right? And she's just there with her family and friends, this whole village basically, right, of hobbits, right, and established early on that they migrate on a regular basis. It's all about protection and all that kind of stuff. So whilst on the move now, I should say, as they kind of set in, as kind of preparing to make the next move, I should say, I'll call it a meteor actually kind of like crash lands near their home, and Nori's the first one to investigate, and she sees this man, this bearded man there, right? And he
Yeah.
has no memory, he has no clue where he's from, and all that kind of stuff. And she kind of forms this friendship with him. She sees good in him, right? But then throughout the season, though, we learn that he has these powers. So one thing, he could conjure up fire, and he has this thing with fire. And there's also a really like impactful scene involving him like turning water into ice. That's all I'll say. And then later on, there are these like three weird looking women, basically, more or less trying to invest, more or less looking for this man, right? Because yeah, as the season more or less kind of implies and kind of suggests and then eventually answers, is this person Soren? Is this the Dark Lord that will come and more or less bring order, if you will, into Middle Earth, or is it somebody else? And I'll stop there, right? The funny and unfortunate thing about this show here is that a lot of people are gonna compare this to House of Dragon, right? In terms of quality, right?
Right.
And I know people are gonna say, "Boy, House of Dragon much better because it's much more mature and blah 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 blah," right? I mean,
Well,
all right,
it
okay,
doing
but I
something
I,
different.
I haven't seen an episode of it yet. Personally, I'm waiting till episode 9 drops, which is actually going to be on the night of me recording this.
Right.
Because if you know anything about Game of Thrones, like that's when these come with the big moments, right? Usually in episode 9, right? I could be wrong with this one, I don't know, but yeah, yeah. So when the season does wrap up, of course I will check it out, right? But yeah, go on, what is it?
No, yeah, yeah. It has again next week when we do House of Dragon, we'll do a workable comparison because there's something about House of Dragon that does we get into maturity or content or anything like that, but I think House of Dragon does something so much better than this show, for a simple reason. But again, I haven't seen the final two episodes, so we'll talk.
All right, I understand. Yeah, yeah. So all right, so I understand, that people will like instantly say that House of Dragon is much better and all that kind of stuff, right? Again, I have not seen the show, so I can't really say, right? For me, I don't want to get into comparisons. Well, I would say when we get to our review of House of Dragon, yes, you can make mention of the show here and see, and we could talk fairly about what works there as opposed to what works in this show here, right? But I went into this pretty much watching the judge the show as is. I didn't want to compare to anything else, right? And it's so funny because if it wasn't for the success of the original trilogy, that's Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and Return of the King, we wouldn't have Game of Thrones in the first place. There wouldn't be this really deep interest into high fantasy in the 21st century. You really have to thank Lord of the Rings for that, right? I don't even want to mention the Hobbit trilogy because that just kind of felt tacked on, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, that was that.
yeah, but what I will say though, as I brought to the Hobbit trilogy, right? The best way to describe this series is like this: if you only care, right, about the original trilogy, if you're satisfied with Frodo's story and Aragorn's story and all that kind of stuff, and you don't really need to care about what happens before or after, then this show is not going to be for you. If you could, if you kind of stomach, I would say the Hobbit trilogy, because it led to the original trilogy, and you're kind of willing to see what happened before the Hobbit trilogy, then yeah, you could give this
Right.
a shot as well too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But again, if you don't care about what happened before the original trilogy, then yeah, this show is not going to do anything for you, right? That being said, though, in terms of what this show set out to be, I think the show nailed it. I think the show did exactly what it's supposed to do, I think that it did a much better job than I actually thought that it was gonna be, right? But and I would say, yeah, this show like actually worked. Like just watching it like this, being able to binge it out and see the story play out. Yeah, this totally worked for me, man. Now I will get a few gripes out of the way, right? Pacing is an issue. I will admit to that, right? And I'm not just talking about the first episode or to extent the second one. I would say the first half of it really does feel like we're setting things up, we're setting things up, we're setting things up, right? Now the funny thing is that like usually with especially like with the Hobbit trilogy and the original trilogy, right? There's always a moment where the journey begins. When it is with the Fellowship or whatever Fellowship is together, and they now go off on the journey, right? So you don't exactly get a fellowship per se here. We just get like basically elves and humans kind of unite because they have to go up against the big threat. That's really what it is, right? But it happens in like episode 5 though, you know what I mean? But like in episode 4, you get okay, we're leading up to it, we're gonna see the moment gonna come, but that could have been when it happens, right? But no, we had to wait till episode 5 when the journey really begins now. And then, well, I would say from episode 6 to the end now, that is where you get just just one satisfactory sequence after another, man. I would say like the last 3 episodes are excellent in my opinion, just in
Yeah.
terms of just payoffs, just in terms of just where characters are and reveals and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, those last 3 episodes totally work though, but it takes a good while though to get there, right? Now, I would attribute those things to translation, right? I know for sure that what we see here in this season is not totally based off of the stuff that took place in the Fellowship of the Ring or whatever book came out around that time, right?
Yeah.
So I know that they made stuff up and create new characters and whatnot, but I assume what we see here at least was alluded in the Fellowship of the Ring book, right? Which Tolkien wrote, right? I assume so because they bring up numerous names and whatnot, and I kept telling myself, all right, if I read the book, okay, they maybe mention that name, and okay, this is why this character is important and all that kind of stuff. So okay, this kind of making sense. But the showrunners had creative liberty, so it's like, all right, we could kind of invent certain things and create certain characters to get to those main characters, and that will eventually lead to the original trilogy. So I like that, right? But yes, pacing is an issue, right? It didn't take me out of the show personally. It was just kind of more or less me kind of waiting, like, all right, like I get, okay, let's move on, but you just had to wait extra long, right? Also, it is a translation. You have to take the fact too, right? That remember when it comes to the Lord of the Rings movies themselves, right? Remember these are like each of them are like 3 hour movies, right? So
Yeah.
they all like these contain stories, right? But here we're seeing a like a season of a TV show play out, right? So yes, you're gonna have more moments. You're gonna have more character moments. You're gonna have more downtime, right? And I'm saying this because I think that's best that you go in knowing that, right? But if you want things to happen like quickly, like all right, we need to jump to this part and that part quickly, then yeah, you're gonna be disappointed by this. It's not that type of show, right? So to be fair, I think it really has to do with format. It's a
Right.
TV show, so we could get away with moments like this, right? But yes, I find that there is a little too much of them at times. That's not to say that there isn't anything that's happening, right? I want to make that clear. Things are happening, right? It's just
Right.
that it takes a long while to get there, right? But that doesn't mean that
No, no.
it takes away from the show or the premise as a whole,
Yeah, the last episode was okay for me, like to be honest. And again, we can't see the final 2 episodes, and you see that the last two solid, and like, all right, cool. I'm with you on that. So it's like, it's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
As
So
I
so
said,
so well,
no, as I said, but there was something very noticeable compared with this compared to Game of Thrones. But we'll see it when you see it, as you see.
okay. All right. So yeah, I would say, if you're kind of spoiled, I hate to use that word, but if you're kind of
Yeah.
spoiled, like you think, all right, well, I love the original trilogy, so like, oh gosh, why this thing moving so slow?
Yeah.
Just think about it as the format. This is a TV show that you're watching here, not a movie, a TV show, right? That being said, though, I think a majority of everything else works, man. We mentioned before the visuals, but yeah, the
Yeah, look good.
visuals
Yeah. Uh,
from episode one,
yeah.
from shot one, frame one, episode one to the very end, though, is just so well put together, boy. My God, this really and truly is one of the best looking shows you will see all year, man. Amazon Studios really went out of their way to make this show look as gorgeous as possible, boy. You could tell, yeah, they went above and beyond the Call of Duty to make this shit look real good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Music fantastic across the board by
Right.
from B.M. McCreary of all people. Yeah, I mean it totally works, right? I love that there's a couple of songs that well, you know, because it's the world of Middle Earth and whatnot, right? I love how they incorporate a lot of folk songs into it as well too. Not a lot, but there's a few as well too. One song in particular is actually well, it's a slight spoiler, but it's how's the best way to describe it? Think of it as like I made a joke. It kind of felt like a James Bond theme song because
Right.
it's kind of telling you, okay, this is what this show is about. But no, really, what it is, it's kind of telling you, all right, this is what it's going to lead up to. But it's something that we already know from Fellowship of the Ring, right? But how it was put together, the song, I thought that was really clever as a folk song, and it was sung by Fiona Apple of all people. Just like when I saw it, I was like, what? Like, okay, legendary legendary singer you got to do that, but it
Yeah.
works though in terms of like the folk aspect of it, right? And in a nutshell, it has to do with the wandering, right? There's slight spoilers about the wandering and how it became to be, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's the bit of dialogue that you hear in the beginning of that first movie, but just how they pull it off, I thought that was really good, too, right? And just yeah, in terms of just the subtle callbacks, I would say to Fellowship, right? There's some subtle callbacks that yeah, I thought was very well handled though. It was just some really smart writing throughout, man. I like that it wasn't heavy handed. It wasn't like knocking over the head and tell you, yes, this is what's gonna happen. This is in relation to what's it. This kind of took its time, let the story flow, and then it just hits you with that reveal and another reveal, right? And I would say, yeah, those last three episodes just came through with some great reveals, man. You know, even right down to who this mystery guy from the sky is, right? Not gonna say who, but it's a very satisfied reveal, right?
Right.
Acting, I thought that across the board was great, man. Not stellar, but great, right? And I do appreciate the show's effort in introducing a bunch of I don't want to say no name, but relatively little known. I don't want to say unknown, but little known actors to play these characters though. So like case in point, the actress who plays Galadriel, never seen her before, right? You know what I mean? This and just like just a bunch of people that maybe you've seen in a show or two, maybe as you know as supporting roles or whatnot, but you know there's no like real big name to to carry this film across, carry the show across, right? Case in point, like say like a Sean Bean or a Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones, right? You don't have that, but you just have these talented actors, yeah, who just did a great job, man. You know what I mean? Um, I just love the fact that you're seeing the early days of these characters, whether it's Galadriel or Isildur, right? Or even or Elrond, you know what I mean? Who actually ended up becoming one of my favorite characters in this, right? But for me though, my favorite character is kind of funny, right? Because you know is a dwarf, and you know what I mean? I'm just a huge fan of the dwarf characters themselves. Durin, you
Right.
know, yeah, the king of the dwarves, man. I thought that he was great, man. I even love the little back and forths that he has with his wife, right? That's another issue they had. Oh no, black dwarfs, what? You know what I mean? And I'm not even gonna go in any further on this whole, why we casting, black actors in it. Like, oh my god, we have black humans in a Melody Ring show. You know what I mean? Like just stop that shit there. You know what I mean? But yeah, acting wise, everybody did the damn thing. Everybody show up. Everybody do what they have to do, right? And just where the story just went to and how it all paid off, though, totally worked, right? It's just again pacing. It just takes a long while to get there. But I would say that if you stick it out, though, then yeah, you will be satisfied by how this story ends, right? And when I say end, because yes, we hopefully we will get a second season out of this though. But where
Right.
it stops off, I thought that was really well done, right? I mean, it's not perfect, right? I just want you all to understand it's not a perfect show though, but there's a lot of greatness in this show though that I would say for me cannot outweighs the bad, right? In my opinion, right? So I do hope that in the second season, they do fix the oh gosh, the pacing of it. I know some people had a little issue with the characterization. Personally, I didn't see any real issues character wise. I think that everybody was fleshed out. Well, everybody who really supposed to be important to the story was fully fleshed out. I love that it alluded to the original trilogy without like hammering us with all these references here or there. It was just like these subtle hints and whatnot, right? And some of them, you kind of suspect, and you just kind of waited to see if it's true or not. Others are unexpected; they come out of nowhere, and I love that about it. And just again though, it's just the effort that they put into making this show what it is, man. I mean, round of applause, man, right? So rating wise, I'm going with a decent, a strong 4 out of 5, man. I think that the show is absolutely worth it, right? Um, it's not like top five or not even top 10 for me, man. But I do see this. I do. This will be a show that I will be thinking about come years, man. This is a show that I will be remembering, in terms of just great output as far as TV shows go for this year, man. But the unfortunate thing about it again is just that people will compare it to House of Dragon and say, well, House of Dragon is better, blah blah blah. But again, it's so funny because if it wasn't for Lord of the Rings in general, you would not have House of Dragon, you would not have Game of Thrones, right? So it is what it is, right? Um, but I will check out House of Dragon for sure. But and I'll make my little mental comparisons here or there, right? But I just want to treat both shows as what they are, right? Not be like, well, House of Dragon did this thing so much better, so yeah, Rings of Power. No, Rings of Power, it's its own thing. I like that it's not trying to be, and this is the last thing I'll say before I move on. I like that it's not trying to be exactly, House of Dragon or Game of Thrones, right? Yes, you do have some dark moments. Yes, you have some intense moments, but you've seen moments like this before in the Lord of the Rings series, right? So it's not like, oh my God, you're copying Game of Thrones. I think that's an unfair statement to make, right? And I would say, yeah, I mean, if you just really curious to see, you know, what just events that led to the trilogy that we know and love, then yeah, definitely check this out, man. But if you really couldn't care less, and the trilogy is up there, and you couldn't care about what happens before or after, then yeah, Rings of Power is not gonna do anything for you. But I would say in terms of just quality, top quality, television content this year, yeah, Rings of Power should be in that conversation for real, man. So yeah, I would say definitely check out that season. Check out Rings of Power season 1. It's
Nice.
absolutely worth it.